Hi, this is Mekona Spokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. I want to deal with the issue of self-esteem. I want to deal with the issue of self-esteem, particularly in ministers of the gospel. I want to speak about signs of low self-esteem in a minister of the gospel, or rather in a pastor. And I want to speak about that because it's very important that we deal with this issue, because it sometimes actually makes people not to be confident enough. It actually destroys even the visionary to be continuously being visionary as well. And therefore, the issue of self-esteem has become a very, very serious issue that we cannot ignore in the church anymore. And that is why I want to address this topic, and I hope it does help some few ministers who will realize that, and therefore start to work towards gaining some self-esteem as well. We'll deal with that as well, and I hope that will help you. Now, I want to today speak about just some signs of preachers with low self-esteem. What do they do, and how do you recognize or discover that you are having low self-esteem, or even the people around you when they are having low self-esteem, that you can be able to help them. The first thing that I want to mention is they often isolate themselves and cannot work with others. So ministers or pastors with low self-esteem, they often isolate themselves. They often don't want to work with others, and they will actually work in a silo or in a corner whereby they don't want other people to be involved in what they're doing. They would not actually spend time with other pastors or other ministers, or worse off, even with their own leadership. They are not actually spending time with their leadership. They would not actually even communicate much with their leadership. And that's really something very serious, because at the end of the day, you are actually interrupting the ministry running as well when you are not communicating with your leadership at all. And this type of ministers with low self-esteem, sometimes they're not even communicating with their own congregants. They are not able to communicate with their own members either. And they want to isolate themselves, and at all times they are isolated, they are all by themselves, and they don't want anybody to involved in their space. And that's one of the signs that you would discover when somebody is having low self-esteem. The next point that I want to mention of people with low self-esteem, particularly ministers of the gospel, we're dealing with that because we definitely need to address these issues so that we can help ministers out there to actually have a way to look at life positively, a way to boost their self-esteem, because that is very necessary. Particularly as a leader, remember that you are working with people closely, you are dealing with people in the church, and that is why the esteem issue is quite very serious, that we need to really work with it. Now, the second point is they often very materialistic in nature as well, whereby they would actually buy very expensive clothes to boost themselves, and some of them even get into buying very expensive cars and to try to boost themselves up, to try to boost their self-esteem, because with low self-esteem, it actually trenches you into a space where you want to actually impress people, where you want to become somebody who is considered and looked up to. And therefore, people like that become very materialistic in nature, and they start actually using materials to hide this low self-esteem in them. And they would actually, as I said, become too much into fashion, expensive labels of clothes and so on, and glittery and glamorous clothing style and so on. And they try to boost their image, or they try to boost their own self-esteem. And that becomes very common as well. But we also have this whereby you see them spending more time speaking about personal achievements as well than delivering the message. That this is mainly when they are ministering, mainly when they are about to speak on the pulpit. They would actually speak a lot about their personal achievements. They'll speak about their qualifications and degrees, and they will actually try to boost their image in a way that people will actually see you as somebody who's better than them. And they would speak about the many graduations that they've gone through, and sometimes they speak even about their knowledge, which is high above others. So they will talk about things around them. They will talk about their material things like houses as well, and the beautiful cars that they're driving. And some of them actually even go to an extent of trying to boost their image about talking about how intelligent they are, how much knowledge they have about many things, and they'll speak about their skills better than everybody else. So they would actually speak more about themselves, and particularly speak about the I and me part of them, which will actually be trying to dominate so that people may see them differently. They're trying to build this particular esteem in a way of building their image differently, that when people look at them, they can look at them differently and think that they are better than them. And that's the reason that they'll speak a lot about themselves. And these are type of people that will say they are full of themselves, but it's mainly because they are having low self-esteem, and therefore they're trying to boost that low self-esteem with that. And that's very, very important that you pick this one up and correct it if you are part of the people that do that, or also if it's people that we know, let's help them to have some self-esteem, and you'll see this vanishing and they never do that again. They often like associating with popular preachers to boost their self-esteem. And sometimes it's not only associating with popular preachers, but they associate themselves with popular people or people that are famous, whether it's celebrities in our setup, or they associate a lot with politicians, for instance, people that are famous, so that they think that this will boost their image and make them famous as well. And that is the reason that some of the people with low self-esteem, in invitation as well, they'll launch themselves into inviting people that are famous. And they'll spend a lot of money inviting those people that are famous to try to boost their self-esteem, so that their image, when they are looked towards by the people outside, they actually may look up to them and think that they are people of greater value. But look at this, that you are having value yourself, but you're trying to boost that which you feel within yourself, that you think that you don't have a value, and therefore you want to add value with people that are famous, people that are known by other people, and you're trying to boost yourself with that, and that may be detrimental as well. And I must emphasize that if you're one of those as well that try to boost your own self-image by associating with very popular preachers, very famous people for that sake. So please be aware that that is because of your low self-esteem. So rather work on the self-esteem in a different manner than to try to get people to boost your self-esteem, because that will be very temporary and it may not mean anything actually to many people around you. So we know that there are people that will actually associate with very popular preachers for that sake, so that you may be respected because of that. So that is very common as well. We see that as a sign of preachers or pastors with low self-esteem, and that is something that we need to also be cognizant of. The other thing is they're often quick to mention travels and old testimonies as well. They would mention about their traveling to different places that they think they will boost their image. Like you'll hear somebody, when I was in America, this is what was happening. When I was in Paris, this is what was happening, and so on. And in order just to make people aware that you've traveled, and that is boosting your own self-image, because there are many people that think that traveling boosted them. They think that having been to a certain place actually dominate other people's minds to view them differently. And that is the reason you'll hear somebody not finishing to talk about their travels. And they've traveled once, but it looks like they've traveled quite a bit. And that is why they are saying it all over again. And each time they step up on the podium, they'll speak about their trip to New York at some stage, their trip to America, United States of America. And they would actually say that so that everybody should view them in a different way and say, this is a person who is greater. So therefore they will respect you based on that. But that is actually just trying to boost your own self-image. And that's because you're having low self-image. And instead of working on your self-image, you're actually putting things like this and putting yourself under pressure. So I want to emphasize this, that this is one of the signs, and if it is part of you, it is very important that you deal with that in a better manner, in a better way as well. So they would actually speak old testimonies. If there's a testimony that's very powerful, they'll stick to that so that they are highly respected because of the previous testimonies. And if you ask them what's happening to you now, you may find that they don't have actual current testimonies. They will forever carry old testimonies of how powerful they were themselves, how they used to minister and heal the sick, and all these things that they used to do in the past that may not be done now. And they're trying to boost their image with the old testimonies. And we have seen this happening. And I want to emphasize that it is something that is not necessary at all. And they generally would like talking about church memberships and numbers than spiritual growth of those members. So they will tell all the world about how many members they have. They'll speak about the 5,000 that they're hosting every Sunday. They'll speak about the 10,000 members that they have. But that doesn't necessarily mean that those members are spiritually matured. Because remember, it is very important that rather have people that are spiritually matured, even though they are few, but it becomes very key, than to have the whole majority of people that are not spiritually matured just because they're gathering during your services. You think that should actually boost your self-image. And I want to emphasize that it should not be that way, and we should not only focus on numbers of people, but we should actually also focus on the development that we give unto the people and how matured people are in those churches. And as I said, even though there are fewer people, but as long as they're matured spiritually, it's much more important than when you have crowds that are gathering there, but yet not even born again sometimes, or they're not even matured spiritually, and that doesn't help at all. But I know it is done for the sake of boosting one's self-image, and that is something that may not be necessary either. We need to look at that. And then this type of people, sometimes they will often mention sharing platforms with famous people as well. They'll forever emphasize, I was sharing a platform with so and so in such and such a conference, so that you can actually be looked up to. And they think that by saying so, it actually boosts their image. It actually boosts their self-worth, and that makes them even better people. Because if this guy was actually sharing a stage with so and so who's popular and famous, that means this is a big guy. So that's the reason why people will talk about this, and it never stops, and they will continue doing that, even though this, what they're mentioning, has happened many years ago. Or sometimes they didn't even share the stage. They just speak about a place where they've been invited before, where somebody happened to have been invited thereafter, or even maybe before that. And they'll speak about sharing a platform with so and so. And that's somebody who's very popular for the sake of boosting their image. Why? Because they're having a low self-esteem, and they're trying to boost that so that people may respect them even much more better. But I want to emphasize that that is not necessary either. So please be careful. Don't try to boost your self-image by actually saying things that are not necessary, because that might actually even destroy your image even more. I want to end up here today, and I hope this is helping, and I hope that you've learned a bit. I'll deal with this topic tomorrow once more, and we'll just deal with some other matters about it, and I hope that will help you to learn a little bit more about it. Your host, Mike Spokane. Thank you very much for listening to us once more and being part of this great lesson. And I hope you will also follow our YouTube channel and click the notification button so that every video that we post may actually notify you, and you may be able to follow us and learn quite a bit. So please don't forget also to join us tomorrow as we deal with the very same topic, but continue maybe with the part 2 of this session of topic. May the good Lord bless you and allow us to say cheers for now.